ahead with that, expecting a good debate and a deliberation out of it. Some basic housekeeping rules: attack the case, not the person. Please engage in POIs, take and give POIs, answer them fruitfully. Note, anything you say after the point of 7 minutes 15 seconds would not be recorded or written by either of the judges on the panel. With this, I hope everything's clear. Before we start, can I get the speaker order from both the government and opposition on the chat box over here? Or you can go ahead while the debate starts. I hope all the teams are ready. With this, Prime Minister, whenever you're ready, here. The floor is yours. And yeah, we are debating on motion 3, I believe.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool then. Also, if you can mention op and government, can you please mention your vetoes as well for confirmation while filling the ballots? With this, I would invite the Prime Minister to open the case from the government side. The floor is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Okay, so do I need to keep my video on?
It's up to you. According to the tournament rules, yeah. I mean, keeping the video on is a sign. It, it's all right.
Okay, so do I get a timer?
I can't actually share screen my timer over here. If the other panelists can do it, I'll be really glad. Divyanshu, would it work for you if you share screen the timer?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Uh, no.
Just click on what stream, it will be visible, I believe.
Yeah, it's visible.
I think I'm already streaming.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, um, so I'll begin in the self count of 3, 2, 1, start. This house opposes the popularization of art re-engineering using AI. Now, what is art? Art is a highly diverse range of human activities and products that creatively expresses one's imagination, conceptual ideas, or one's technical skill. Now, what is the problem in this debate? That art reengineering using AI refers to the process of reimagining or transforming or repurposing existing artworks, styles, or creative systems using new tools. Basically, that is using AI. So, the example that the motion has taken is that of Papaouti, which is a song by artist Stromae. Now, what is the problem here? Firstly, artists do not get credited for their individualistic styles. This cover of Papaouti, which is entirely AI generated. It has previously and even today it has sparked intense debate regarding copyright and artist. um the timer has okay, this has like sparked intense debate regarding copyright and artists consent in the music industry because the artist Stromae is still credited as the writer of the composition. Royalties can theoretically still go to the original artist, but the status of master rights for AI generated performances still remains a legal west card. So this thing is entirely he she Okay, whatever. So the main problem here is that artists do not get credited for their individualistic styles. This also goes on to say, for example, Ghibli. During the trend of Ghiblification of different pics, the creator of Studio Ghibli, that is Miyazaki, has expressed dissatisfaction, and he was immensely disheartened, uh, and expressed this publicly. So AI at its core cannot create something original, because it just statistically recombines and remixes data like images and videos and audios, but it is incapable of creating something new in the human sense of it. So there is no originality. So uh, when we popularize re-engineering of art using AI, the artist itself gets the bad end of the stick. Secondly, how does this motion make the problem better or worse? So the makes here for the artists economically, when something can be made by AI, economically suffering artists are even worse off at the other end of the spectrum, because why would someone pay for an art that can be easily AI generated within like 5 minutes? Now, what this eventually leads to is a further loss of incentive. Now that the already suffering artist sees that his art is not getting paid, and in fact it is getting repurposed into something and popularized by someone else, the artists, like, they lose their incentive for creating new art and lose their interest for making new art. Thirdly, the fear that their art again will be stolen in the name of repurposing or reimagination. The fear that their art is again getting stolen, so they are afraid of putting in the effort to think out of the box and bring something new to the forefront. Now, for the audience or consumers, initially it might be fun. Like initially, when new tracks come out, we find a lot of fun in it. But in the long run, the audience gets bored and exhausted of listening to AI generated covers and AI replicas of art. Even AI generated songs were trending like a month ago or something, but those that were trending a month ago are kind of out of trend right now, because people are ultimately bored of listening to that same thing. Now, AI reimagines art in either absolute perfect sense that lacks human imperfections at its core, POI, just a second, or absolutely diabolically replicates it, like AI generated images of humans with 5 arms and 6 legs. Okay, so I'll take the POI.
Panel, I think what matters in this specific debate is the idea that can we still be able to have art independent of AI like utilization or with that AI utilization itself. I don't think that opening like the prime minister is proving anything within her speech.
Okay, I didn't get your question, but I think it was very well mentioned in the info slide that AI, the motion is about AI re-engineering of popularization of art reengineering using AI. So whatever. Now, why does this matter? That this change has occurred. Basically, what are the impacts? Firstly, this devalues human craft. At the end of the day, when the song Papaouti by the artist Stromae, the AI version of the song Papaouti gets popularized, in the end, even though we know that the original artist behind it was Stromae, still the AI repurposing, the AI reimagination of it that has gained popularity was made by someone else, and the majority royalties goes to that creator, even though the original artist was Stromae. Now, so the economical and cultural disruption that this brings to artists, for example, this shifts the cultural value from, let's say, rare handmade originals towards something very predictable, something very scalable, and basically something that is made for a consumer rather than something that the artist creates for themselves. So it just becomes an industry implant at the end of the day. So then art is not something that remains as art, rather than it becomes something that consumers would consume. uh, Thank you.
Thank you so much, PM, for a very fine speech. With this, I would like to invite the LO to open the opposition's case. Anytime you're ready. LO, here, the floor is yours.
Good evening to all. My name is, wait, sorry, wait. Oh, sorry. Hi. Oh, sorry. Good evening to all. My name is Gegezo. I am your PM. I take my POIs verbally. Please do not load your POIs into the chat because I will ignore them because I prefer things to be verbal and everything. Anyways, I will begin my speech quite shortly. Please allow me to set up my timer and organize my notes. Okay then, wait, can I please set up my timer? 3, okay, I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hello, we believe that the problem in this debate is whether or not, it's whether or not AI is bad, or we don't believe that the problem in this debate is whether or not AI is bad, but then what the real problem in this debate is that art has lost its meaning and it needs to be revived. If you look at the entirety of the Prime Minister's speech, throughout her entire speech, she's basically bashing AI and not the popularization of this. Meaning on their side, there needs to be against the popularization of this art and not AI of AI art and not AI art even of itself. What are the things that we actually get from this speech before I go on to my setup? Okay then, the things that we get from her speech are like these 3 points. Number 1, artists don't get enough credit because of this AI art. Number 2, AI takes away jobs and the incentives to engage. And number 3, artists as a result do not get paid by these things. Okay, first of all, we believe that we already take down the majority of a speech, which is what these 3 points are, at the point at which we already have mechanisms in order to curb these things. Like for instance, we have AI detecting machines. We have severe punishments such as banning, suspensions that are already taking place not only in universities but also in art competitions. So we believe at the point at which our technology has developed to such an extent that we can detect this art and actually find these people, the argument does not stand. But also, secondly, to talk about how the audience will eventually get bored of this because through this popularization, art will be mass produced. We tell you that that is not entirely true because through this popularization, especially this popularization taking place in social media, it allows for different interpretations when large amounts of people take place, meaning that we cater to a larger audience, and through these trends and movements, they are not they're not heterogeneous. Oh wait, no, they're not heterogeneous, meaning that they're different and they also adapt as time passes by. So we don't believe that the audience will get bored of this mass-produced art at the point at which many people come over here and gather and produce different kinds of art. Number one, and number two, social trends on social medias basically adapt and change every day, meaning that we get new art every day. So we believe that I've already taken away most of the important points that come from this speech. But then let's go over what exactly this debate is about. We believe that this debate, the whole chat of this debate is that art has lost its meaning. People do not engage with the true meaning of art, and that has resulted in a large division within people. And number two, through this division, we believe that we are able to better than fix this division at the point at which we use this re-engineering AI art whatever in order to allow people to self-actualize. Let's go over what this popularization looks like. We believe that this popularization is on a large scale on social media platforms, number one. Number two, re-engineering, this re-engineering art works to basically acknowledge to acknowledge and basically to acknowledge the admission of this art. And number three, people who use this art, or people who use this AI art, can base people who do not have talent, or people who want to engage within within the standards of art, can use this AI in order to enter this through this popularization. Let's go over what art is in this debate, something that we don't get from the Prime Minister. We believe that art in its very nature as it exists now, or actually as it existed throughout history, is very vague in nature. That is to say that people struggle to understand or fathom this art. We see this with how divisive people are to engage with, with Western art, with African art, or with the Asian art throughout history, to the point where through the colonial era, it has led to the destruction of many communities who had a different art and a different lifestyle from another. And we also see it currently where people do not even appreciate the beauty of wearing your natural hair in public as a black person. We believe at the point at which we use this AI art, we'll be better able to close this gap. We believe that we support this motion when we're better able to break down these cultural barriers. Number two, when people can actually use this art to actualize. And number three, when we ascribe value to the art. The burden that we then have to prove is that through this use of AI, through in popularization, that we do not harm art, but actually we improve the art. First argument that I'll be running in this debate is basically the justification of modism. So now, is the justification of modism. The premise of this motion is that we want to ascribe to the true value of this art. Number two, art has become unfathomable and vague, and we want to fix this. And this essentially has an impact with how we engage with one another. And number three, we believe that when we approximate to the true value of art by approximating it to ourselves in the modern era, we are better able to we are better able to prove that the value of art exists better on our side than on-side proposition. Firstly, first point of analysis, art has become vague. That is to say that if we look at the Western African, European and Asian art throughout history, new art becomes vague as what is this? New art becomes vague from different communities, from different communities and different histories of people, when people actually want to engage with this, and this essentially divides us. This vagueness with patriotism and through the colonial conquest had destroyed the true meaning of art throughout history, where we don't even value the true nature of ourselves currently. We believe that this disconnect in our modern society can be reconnected when we approximate it to ourselves through this exposure. This exposure exists better on our side through popularization, as I've already given to you in my framing of what it looks like. Meaning that in our side mechanizes that through the use of this art in social media trends and all of those things, people are better able to engage with each other's cultures. Like for instance, people can an Asian man can use a black avatar for this certain game and whatever. So the impact of this is that basically we're able to break down cultural barriers on our side, more on the proposition side. And number two, we are able to erase the vagueness that exists with this art that divides us. And at the point at which we remove this divide within ourselves, between us, through exposure, we're better able to break down cultural barriers. And not only are we better able to break down cultural barriers, we ascribe to the true value of art, where people can appreciate art for what it is. This is something that you cannot get on side proposition at the point at which this
Excuse
is
me.
not popularized. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Alo, for your very fine speech. Again, a note to the speakers, anything you say after the 7-minute 15-second mark is not noted. So yes, please keep a note of that. With this, DPM, whenever you're ready, you're here. And yes, please engage in POIs, ask and take POIs. The floor is yours, DPM.
Okay. Hello, I am Pradipan. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. And at first, for POIs, please, I will also intend verbal POIs. So please ask or raise your hand while speaking that. So now, hello to everyone. So now I am starting my speech in my self count of three, two, one. So I think my DPO has inherently meaning, getting the meaning false of art. What is an art? Art is the mirror of the contemporary society. So when we are talking about art, like only not only like just constraining it to Africa, be it Ghibli art or be it India's Bhimbetka art to modern art, every art reflects what is the current status quo of the society. So when we are just containing our art to the artificial intelligence is only constructing into that algorithm based uh, art that are just being created or not the new things that that might come. So that the reason the art loses its originality, and my DPO, or I think, also gets the false meaning of the motion. The motion says this house opposes the popularization of art in re-engineering using artificial intelligence. So here, using of artificial intelligence creates a very nuanced stance that they completely discourage that. So today our debate is not that as AI should use in art, or the main problem, or the main problem here lies that are we normalizing it to the as a regular level. Like also they're talking about the popularization thing. So my I would like to state that popularization is not dependent only advancement. It is rather it is become or moral or acceptable or encourage people to do the work, do the art. Because to art we may see the AI made song voice cloning, or art reframing, or dependency on AI on existing art like the Ghibli art and the things which actually inherently harms the core value of the art. Because why art is created? Art is not created to be commercialized. Art is created to show the realness of the thing. Art is has not that bindings that it has to be perfect. Its reality lies on its originality. But AI art engineering harms it. It weakens the artist and spectator relationship. Let's take an example. AI just creates a new version of the song while copying the other artist's voice. Then as a spectator I may connect it to that song, but I am just becoming that algorithmic listener. So it is a completely AI represented artificial or AI representation. So the authenticity of the art here decreases. The identity of the art just turns into data. Like that we are just constraining ourselves into reels, 2 days or 30 seconds or 15-second videos. Like that AI, that the art is just constrained into data, that which art has public has more celebrated. Then the originality or the creativeness of art should be rather be detrimental. Like that the art which is just created that might be celebrated after 12 years or 13 years, like Van Gogh. In his living state he does not get celebrated for the art he created, but it was later under getting understand. So if at that time AI exists, so that then he would use AI, so that will create a mediocrity in the art level. So the revolution, which is the main core value of the art, like it Afro art or American art or the Asian art, every art, that the credibility or the rebellion that the art inherits, it becomes weakened. So we just
POIs.
okay, please.
Speaker, we think the art in and of itself, or the artist, in fact, we don't think the artist should get priority in this specific regard. We think the individuals who are the audience, who are going to essentially be the beneficiaries of this art, are the ones that are supposed to be prioritized. Engage the audience.
Okay, you are just talking about the audience. So at first understand, many people leaves their house or life regarding dependency of this art. So if that we are just celebrating the audience and just diminishing the artist part, then how the arts will be created? How your next generation will be get encouraged to do that art that will inspire or create something rebellious that would infuses or that creates the ignition in new minds. So here the main reason, so I will come back to my speech, that it is not the mere purpose of art to create the finest one. It is important to just uh, core or connect the art social and human value of the art. And arts also represents the culture, society, and history. So when a artist creates its identity in that field after putting so much long, but when we are talking about that AI creation, art becomes a commercial subject. As my PM says, then the identity changes. So which company or which corporate company will giving value to the artist, so it will destroy the artist. And which the thing that we get cheap fast easily, like the KFC chicken. So when why will try for that the long recipe which will take some, many times, and for which we have to pay the much more value. So we will encourage the AI will encourage the correct copying rather than the creativity. The creativeness of the public will decrease. And my opposition would like to say that it has democratized, or it might be controlled. But we at first understand we are not against that technology, but at regular, when many art will be created using AI, so how it would be possible to control that artisting, and the copyright issue will be the main problem in that status quo. It will be turned. So they will try to make their arguments like that it will encourage the culture to create, or to just spread it all over the world. But rather than doing that, it turns only into a data based or algorithmic based a model that is so much harmful. So as a result, the originality, the economical, and the every aspect of the society or the core value of the art will be diminished. So I think that in our side, we proudly opposes the popularization of art reengineering using artificial intelligence by saying that I am resting my case but not my stance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DPM, for your very fine speech. With this, DLO, whenever you're ready, I would like to invite DLO to extend their case. The floor is yours. Here.
Okay, just confirming audibility.
Yes, you're loud and clear. Just keep your voice near the mic so that you're able to hear it clearly.
Okay, Fairs, I'm Orenetsi, pronouns he, him, and I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. The nature of art is that the artist shows art such that people can engage with its meaning and prescribe what it means to them. So we think that the priority in this debate shouldn't be on the artist, and this is what Kutlwana raises in his POI. So that the art, like the audience that engages with this art, is the priority, because they are the ones that actively prescribe meaning, and they are the ones in which the artist has made the art form. Few responses here. The first idea that we're going to get, we mostly get it in first, is that the artists are not going to get credited, and we're going to discredit individuality, but more on a pragmatic level, then we're going to get things like copyright. First, we know that this is largely untrue, because the actualization and the meaning that we prescribe from AI, or the like popularization of AI, comes from that very same artist. So we are always going to give credit to the to that artist, that the actualization that we got is only possible because we only got that, like the original art piece. So we aren't going to discredit Leonardo da Vinci. We are still going to say that Leonardo da Vinci is the one that made it possible for us to have such art in the first place. So we're not going to discredit him. On the more pragmatic chat on copyright and stuff like that, right? We think that there's a very low hanging fruit, such that we are able to always regulate things like this through legalistic measures, right? This is what Keketse also says in his speech, that we're always able to limit the actions of people by the consequences that we're able to bring to them, because individuals know that they cannot copyright. So we're always going to credit the artist, and the artist is still going to be kept in the way that he is. But the second idea that we get that is quite intuitive from them is that art is the mirror of contemporary society, so AI limits it to its algorithm, so we lose originality. Firstly, on a very strategic note, they can't just claim the nature of AI and how it's going to exist just basically and giving that assumption out there. We think that without any mechanization that falls through. But let's actually go to mechanization of why this is very, very untrue, on why and why we won't lose originality, right? So let's understand first why art is made. I give this to you in my like in the beginning of this. Art is made to have different views on what it means, but you can't achieve this because the only meaning of what art is what the artist says. So that we cannot have discussions in society, we cannot have different meanings and approaches of actualization of what art actually means to us. Therefore, we only depend on the artist to explain the art. The art cannot explain itself in the absence of the artist. You're going to get more of this within my analysis. But the thing is, when you get that, you are not able to have individuals to prescribe the meaning that they have in their new eras. The individuals cannot prescribe meaning to that. Therefore, the audience is not then catered for. You know, when you cannot cater for the artist, you're going to lose the value of art in of itself. Going on to the chat here. The major chat here is that the modernization removes a disconnection of art in the most effective way. Few things here. First, what does this popularization look like in its entirety? We think that this is when we renew the image of art, that is people that engage with the art can give new meaning to what they think the art means, and more importantly, what it means to them in that new era of humanity. So, what is the largest problem that actively exists within art that actively creates a disconnection for people because we have so many barriers? Three things under this. One, the barrier that we have is that art then is made for specific groups of people and others cannot engage with it such that they cannot also find or derive meaning from this. This looks like Leonardo da Vinci having art that is mainly for the elite. But secondly, it just looks like any art that isn't Leonardo da Vinci's is not able to be credited. But secondly, here then, this looks like the valuable art that cannot be engaged with because new eras of humanity have emerged. We lose the value of the Mona Lisa today because we cannot engage with what the Mona Lisa, we cannot engage with what the Mona Lisa is, right? We cannot engage what Mona Lisa means to us in this new era of humanity. We actively have to depend on what it was before. This is actively bad because we cannot depend on the expression of art or the meaning of art in an era because that does not give actualization to us. We cannot derive any meaning for it. But thirdly, and what is the most important, is that art today has lost its meaning in how it depends on the artist to explain it and its significance. So in the absence of the artist, we cannot have meaning, right? We cannot have meaningful art. This gives us an incentive to still keep the value of the art by to prescribe meaning to the art in the first place so that individuals can still actualize the art. So what do we want to do with an opposition here? We want to disconnect the art from the artist such that individuals are able to find meaning even in the absence of the artist. Even when the artist is not there to explain what the art means, individuals can still prescribe new meanings to that. But more importantly, they can describe meaning and prescribe meaning to that art that is proximate to them and proximate to the era that they live in today. So, what does the popularization of AI then do here? Before that, any point? Sure. Firstly, it allows individuals to break the barrier of actualization. So even in a new era of humanity, we
Okay,
can
POI.
prescribe new meanings to art. Sure, taken.
So when you say that artist can create without having the need to prove it to the audience, why would an actor act if there is no one to watch him, or why would a painter paint if there is no one to see his painting?
The thing is, you're proving the case. The audience is there and the audience is valuable to the artist. Therefore, that very same audience that you want to defend in that POI, or the very same audience that you want to garner or create, is the very same one that we actively want to cater to. So therefore, we want to actively have artists that actively have people to actually paint for, people to actually create music for. But that only exists when you're able to have that audience being able to prescribe meaning for themselves and what the meaning actively means for them, right? So back to this, right? So what I said to you, that it allows individuals to break the barrier of actualization. So what does this look like? This looks like us being able to derive meaning from the Mona Lisa that was created in the Renaissance era. Because today we don't live in the Renaissance era, we cannot actively understand what it means to be like someone that is part of it and what the art actively means and what it wants to communicate. But we can prescribe this meaning through things like AI. We can prescribe the Mona Lisa meaning and how it is good and proximate to feminism, or how it's good and proximate to the issues that we have today. So we can have more actualization. Because in this new era of humanity, we have disconnected the art from the artist. We have made it more proximate to the viewers. But secondly, it allows art to still, like, it allows the art to still have value in the absence of the artist. So even when the artist is not there, we are still able to have the value of art. We uphold the value of art, we do not harm the value of art in its entirety. But thirdly, like, the art that was made can now be engaged with by the general public. So art no longer has this monolithic barrier that doesn't allow individuals to exist or engage with it. Because of how accessible
Excuse me,
AI
speaker.
is, now
हमें इसको पॉलिश में
even
पॉइंट नहीं है anyway.
the people that are like on the ground can actively engage with the art that they have. Even the people that weren't, like, even when the art wasn't made for them, like, i.e., you're not an elite, they can still engage with this, such that
Excuse me,
AI is so
speaker.
accessible and derive meaning from it. Yes.
The time is over. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but yes, nothing
Yes.
was noted. Yeah, nothing was noted after the 7 minute 15 second mark. So yes, please check your timers as you're speaking. With this, I would like to thank the DLO for their very fine speech. With this, I invite the government whip to summarize their case from their side. Government whip, the floor is yours. Here, here.
Okay, hello, I am Pradipan. I acted as DLO and now I am acting
I'm
as
really sorry. I'm really sorry. A speaker can't go consecutively for another speaker role. That is, if you're right impersonating, that means the person who went as the prime minister has to go as the whip. I'm really sorry.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right. So I would invite Pragga to go as the whip over here in this case.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll begin my speech in the self count of three, two, one, start. I'll start by first at. Is the timer on? Hello. Okay, okay, okay. Can you just restart once again, please? Three, two, one, start. So first, the DLO talks about why audience as beneficiaries need to be prioritized. But here, the OP treats artists and audiences as competing stakeholders. But that is not true. Artists produce the very content that audiences consume. So if the artist loses control over their own work and income and their sense of identities, fewer people can sustain their artistic careers. Therefore, over time, audiences receive less original art and more AI recycled art. So, protecting artists is actually protecting the future interests of audiences. So, therefore, the audience cannot enjoy a creative ecosystem if there are no creators left in the first place with the incentives to create more art. Secondly, what they talk about is the point of self actualization, and they refer Mona Lisa and Renaissance, etc., etc. So self actualization comes from learning a skill. It comes from developing a particular craft, and comes from making creative conflicting choices and overcoming challenges, and then thereby expressing a person's personal experiences. Typing a prompt and having an AI reconstruct and regurgitate someone else's style bypasses that very process. So, inherently, what the user receives in the end is a product that is not necessarily an art and that does not reflect the actual process of self actualization. Now there are three main clashes on in this entirety of the debate, and I will demonstrate why Gov wins on the three major clashes. The first one being authenticity and the artistic integrity. Now, the opposition tells us that art has always evolved through adaptation. They but why this fails is because human inspiration and AI re-engineering are fundamentally two different things. When a musician learns from another musician, there is interpretation, there is emotion, and there is like a sort of lived experience and personal creativity involved in it. But when you prompt an AI to remix that song, then AI does not get to experience anything. It just statistically reproduces. preemptive patterns that are extracted from enormous volumes of artistic stolen data without any consent. The example, that is what the example of that song Para Papaouti perfectly illustrates here. So the machine, that machine did not understand the complex language that was used in that song. It did not feel the emotion. It just merely replicated the characteristic style that that particular music had. So, in our mechanism, the more society popularizes AI re engineering, the more audiences become accustomed to consuming simulated creativity instead of genuine artistic expression. So, over time, what happens is authenticity inherently becomes less valuable than and just um, and therefore the purpose of art is not only to create like a present output, it is to experience it. That is, if self actualization is more in our paradigm, so it inherently communicates human experiences. So AI can imitate artistic products, but it cannot replicate the human intent and the human effort that goes behind it. So therefore, the government wins on this clash. The second clash is that of rights as well. Yeah, what POI? I'll take it later. The second clash is that of rights versus consent, and as well as the economic justice. What the op basically goes over is that AI democratizes creativity and stuff. So anyone basically can become a creator, and anyone can experiment with different styles and different art forms. So what happens here is that it what happens is that artists, the original creators of a particular art form, they get harmed because their art form, their style is being stolen because it is being taken without their consent. So this very system of AI art re-engineering is entirely dependent on the very fact that it is devoid of consent, and it is trained on the labor of artists or musicians or writers, etc., and their efforts. So in our paradigm, once AI re-engineering becomes popularized, artists lose their control over their artistic identities. And what eventually happens is, even in the example given in the context slide, that music was sung, it was like AI generated voiceover of some artists. So voice actors inherently and musicians, their voices are taken away from them, and therefore musicians face competition from synthetic versions of themselves, and audience consume replicas. So the third clash here is that of cultural and social consequences. So what the op basically claimed with the Renaissance example is that AI engineering repurposes old art that we have inherently lost touch with, and it preserves culture. But this is very superficial because access to art is not preservation. Replication, when you replicate something, you do not understand it or value it. When you, it's just like taking a printout of an already existing notes. If you do not put an effort into understanding a piece of notes, then you do not grasp the concept of it. You just take a printout of it. So a machine can just reproduce the sound of that music, but it cannot preserve the lived experiences of that particular community of people. Thank you. Oh, acha, sorry. I have 7 minutes now. Okay. So what in our in what we mechanize here is that popularization creates incentives for mass produced cultural simulations. So instead of engaging with real artists from the marginalized communities, like the one that was given in the context slide, consumers increasingly interact with algorithmic and statistical approximations. What Just a second. What this eventually leads to is cultural homogenization, like that happens in countries like, let's say, South Korea and etc. So eventually this leads to lack of artistic diversity. Everyone starts to listen to that same boring set of songs and that same boring dress up in that same fashion sense, etc. I'll take the POI.
It's
Okay.
protected time. You can't take POIs.
Okay. So um okay, in the end, I would just like to say by conclude by saying that if AI generated simulations replace genuine cultural participation, then society becomes culturally poorer despite producing more artistic outputs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Government Web, for a very fine speech. And guys, please note the first 1 minute and the last minute of these speeches are protected time, so no POIs can be asked for and given to, in the according to the UADC manual. Going ahead, I would like to invite the opposition whip to conclude their case. Opposition
Okay.
whip, whenever you're ready, here.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Indeed, loud and clear.
Thank you very much. Going to take my POIs with them being vocalized. Please don't type the POI in the chat space. Just say POI and then I'll be able to take you. Okay. Oh, my bad. Yeah. So I'm gonna start my speech then in three, two. Chair. There are two different audiences to art. The audience of when the art was created and the audience after the art has existed. The difference between the two is that the audience after the art has existed depends on the artist to be able to explain its meaning from this specific art in and of itself.
Excuse me, is the speaker speaking? Or is it me?
No, it's not audible.
Alright, I think they stopped speaking at the mark of 19 seconds. We'll wait for them. If their teammates could inform them that they're not audible, I'll be very glad.
Yes, we have told him that it's not audible. We're trying to get him now.
Alright, thank you so much. We'll wait for a minute for him.
AI art in it, like AI reengineering in and of itself is something that is going to
Excuse
win
me.
out all these clashes.
Excuse me. Actually, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. We were unable to hear you after the 19-second mark itself. That is when you just started the speech. According to my notes,
Go back.
you were describing the types of audience. You started with what are the types of audience that art caters to. If you can, please start from
Okay,
there.
please confirm. Like, can I just actually restart? Please confirm. Am I audible now?
Sure. You're audible. You can restart. Take your time.
Okay, perfect stuff. Let me actually do this. Assuming that I'm still audible, starting in three, two. Chair, there are two different audiences. The audience of when the art was created and the audience after the art has existed. The difference between the two is that the first one depends on the artist to be able to explain the art in and of itself. The second depends on the art to be able to explain itself and allow individuals who are the audience to derive some form of meaning from this specific art in and of itself. This is our case from the second speaker. It wasn't engaged. Note that. A few clashes then that do arise within this specific debate, and I'm going to show you why our matrix of supporting this specific, I guess, mechanism in and of itself wins us all these clashes. The first is the value of the art to the artist, but then secondly, the human creation capacity in and of itself, whether it diminishes or whether or not is it amplified, or rather is the art in and of itself reinvigorated and all of that. The third clash is more on who is able to give art its meaning, but then lastly, like how the artist is going to lose artistic control over their identity in and of itself. I want us to understand one thing. When we create an art piece in and of itself, the artist does not create it for themselves. The artist creates that specific art for the individuals that they seek to, I guess, give it to. It means that we have to concede to the fact that it does not matter whether or not what is being done is something that's going to be beneficial to the artist, but it's something that has to be prioritized in this specific debate is whether or not is the audience catered for in this specific instance. This is why art exists. It exists for the audience. In the beginning of our case, we have explained that the problem is more around the fact that art does not have meaning anymore. It's more around the fact that art has been reserved for a certain group of people. What this does is to create a barrier of access to this specific art in and of itself. Note that we don't get engaged within the specific problem that we present to you and we give them the solutions to the specific problem in and of itself. We tell you through the leader of the opposition speech that re-engineering through AI restores this specific meaning of art in and of itself. What is the impact of this? Three things. The first impact is more on the idea that we're able to restore the art itself. It does not matter what tool do we use to restore this specific art. Whether do we use our human capacity, whether do we use our hands, whether do we use paint, whether do we use AI, the outcome is still the same. We're able to restore the art irregardless of the tool that we use. The second impact is more on the idea that this is the mechanism that allows us to be approximated to the art itself because we have given it some form of meaning through the reinvigoration of art in and of itself. It's important that if you think that the painting of Mona Lisa no longer reserves its specific meaning, it's important that as the audience you derive meaning from it. You can't derive meaning from not being active in restoring or re-establishing the meaning of that painting in and of itself. It means that it's important for us to approximate ourselves to that specific art, so for the art in and of itself to have value. We think this is something that is this is the greatest impact in this specific debate. The last impact then under this is more on the idea that we want to make art to be inexpensive. Notice that AI becomes a tool that allows us to have this access. It means that from the side of government, they don't give access to people. Orenete, in his DLO speech, he tells you that art has been reserved for specific artists. What this does is that it devalues any art that does not come from these famous artists in and of themselves. This is the problem, and government has not actually disproven us on this idea. Why then is it necessary for us to actually have the actualization that you get from the DLO? Notice that I'm going to give you now the last impact before I get to the responses. We think that it becomes necessary because the pursuit of modern artists and their intention or the incentive is to create art that we can be able to resonate with as the audience. It means the DLO speech goes unresponded. It can even win this debate independent of my responses, independent of our first speech. We think all of this already outweighs the government's case because it gives you a complete justification as to why then we ought support and not oppose this specific mechanism in and of itself. What is the trade-off then from our side? It's going to be very simple. Because art is produced by an artist, but it belongs to the audience, we must allow the audience to have any means going to approximate them from this art so that the art can still have its place within the society, so that the art can still preserve its value, so that the artist's identity can be best protected. They can't claim that they're going to protect the identity of the artist if they don't allow us to interact with the artist in the first place. The way in which we interact with the artist is through the artist's work. I'm going to explain to you why then government is going to lose this debate. Government needed to give us three things. Firstly, they needed to give us a matrix of opposing in the first place as to why they want to oppose this mechanism. But then secondly, they needed to prove that AI's popularity in art re-engineering is what harms how we engage with one, the art itself, but then secondly, the engagement that individuals have with the artist in of themselves. Notice that, Chair, every debate has a vulnerable actor. In this debate, it is not the artist, but the audience. Why? I've explained to you that the creation of art is not for the artist, but it's for the people. Even when you created the Papaouti music, you didn't create it so that the artist can dance to it. The artist created it so that we as individuals can dance to the specific music itself. It means that over time, the way in which we perceive that art degenerates. It's the incentive of the people to to renew or rather bring back that ability for that art in and of itself to be utilized by the audience. The way in which this song in and of itself has existed is a way that made art to be abolishable in the first place. It devalued art because individuals who are supposed to engage with that art are not engaging with it. For individuals to engage with it, it's important that we re-engineer and we popularize AI re-engineering so that people can be able to give meaning to everything so that 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 specific art can preserve some form of value. I'm going to explain to you why then on their conversation on how the devaluing of human art is something that is specifically untrue. We think that human art in and of itself depends on whether or not are individuals interested in that specific art in and of itself. The way in which individuals in societies engage with art is something that should be prioritized. The way in which individuals seek to re-establish meaning for that very specific art is what gives that specific art more value. There's no devaluing in the song being more popular than it was at first. If it is more popular than it was at
Excuse me,
first, because
speaker.
of how we have used AI, it means that we're able then to achieve all of these outcomes here.
All right. Thank you so much, Vip, for your very fine speech. Now I would like to invite the reply speaker from opposition side to summarize that case again. All right. The floor is yours.
Okay. I will start my.
Opposition. Opposition goes first and replies.
Okay.
Okay, confirming audibility once more.
Yes, you are. Loud and clear.
Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I loved when Aristotle once said that the aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but the inward significance. The thing is, on government side, you're not able to achieve what Aristotle said because you make art lose its value, and how individuals are not then able to prescribe meaning to it, and how individuals are not able to then find some proximity to it, right? And how individuals live in a new era of humanity and they still don't know what the significance of this art is. But we tell you on our side that art ought to be valuable, therefore, we ought to give individuals some sort of mechanism to be able to prescribe their own value. What does government tell you here on who is better for the value of art? They tell you because AI is not human, it loses what art is and the human experience. And therefore, it steals from the artist and it steals from the individuality of the artist. What we tell you under this, we say one, the artist creates art for the audience for them to engage. So they already actualize by making the art in the first place. So the artist doesn't need any more actualization. They've already achieved that form of actualization in the process of making that art. What we care for now is how the individuals that engage with the art now get a form of actualization in how they prescribe this meaning to art. Therefore, we think that in this debate, we ought to care for the audience, right? And we think that they still don't engage on how they are better able for the audience. But we still tell you that we protect the artist. On the pragmatic level, when they tell you, but we're still going to get high risks of copyright, we're still going to get high risks of more legalistic things. We tell you that we ought to protect the artist from such things, that the artist is always going to be credited for their work. We're not going to discredit Leonardo da Vinci for what he did. We tell you this in the first. But secondarily, the art loses its value and how it depends on the artist to speak for the art. Gurdjieff tells you this beautifully in his third speech, that art is now dependent on the artist to then prescribe meaning to it. The thing with that is that now we cannot have, we don't have more individualistic approaches to what art then means. But the thing is, we give you three barriers that exist within art today. One, art being inaccessible because it is either for the elite, but secondarily, it's not able to be engaged with because of the different proximities within the new eras, but thirdly, art not being able to talk for itself. So we tell you that firstly, under the AI, we are better able to prescribe meaning for this. Therefore, because AI is so accessible, we're still able to give artists, we're still able to recognize and give some form of actualization to break these barriers that exist around elites and only them being able to access art. But secondly, we also tell you that the value of art is kept because now we no longer, because we didn't live in the Renaissance, we don't understand what Leonardo da Vinci did when he was painting such paintings that he painted. We say that we're going to prescribe our own value to that art such that we're able to actualize on it. Therefore, the audience is catered to on the largest scale possible. But then they also tell you one thing, that hey, AI is something that loses authenticity because it is not human. Kuduano tells you that we don't care in which mechanism you're able to bring actualization, but the only thing that we care for is that the actualization and prescribing and the revamping of that art is the thing that's most important within this debate. Therefore, we ought only care about, like, we don't care about how we get there. We care specifically that we are there in the first place. And we tell you that because we are defending such AI, like the AI initiatives, it is good because these individuals no longer have these barriers that separate them. We think that on the authenticity of art, we tell you that art is not harmed. Rather, we give it more value. We have given you that they run a purely negative case and they're not able to prove to us any substantive benefits that they're able to get in the absence of the progression of AI. But then lastly, then they still don't defend how they're able to then give some sort of proximity of actualization towards the audience. And in that, opposition largely wins.
Thank you so much, Op reply. Gov reply, whenever you're ready. The floor is yours. Here.
So, hello. I am starting my speech in three, two, one. So, after hearing the almost the whole debate, so at the end of this debate, as a proposition, we get that the opposition's entire case based on one assumption that technological innovation is inherently desirable. That's where the opposition fails. But innovation alone is not a justification. History shows that society regularly places ethical limits on technologies when they threaten fundamental human values. In this debate, the values at stake are artistic ownership, cultural authenticity, creative integrity, and human expression. The opposition is failed to prove that why efficiency should outweigh these values. And as the government has constantly demonstrated that popularizing AI art engineering erodes the authenticity metric, reduces the artistic identity to the data which has just catered on based on some algorithmic outputs, and encourage just the mere imitation over the originality. When they are talking about the Vinci thing or anything, they were just original. Vinci create the model of an aeroplane originality, and they are talked about that the Renaissance is not needed now. For that reason, the society has been becoming so much dull. We are not getting that the artistic creativity that was being used to in the previous times, which are now erodes almost that time. And the cultural ownership, we are saying that the cultural ownership is also must be weakened. One is not prioritizing or not accepting others culture so much democratically. That was in past that has been happened, and it threatens the human creative professions which are being the core value of the human society. So the debate is no so the most importantly, we showed that the harms are structural and long term. This is not simply about the individual songs or isolated AI projects. It is about the future relationship between technology, arts, and society. And when we are talking about that the AI democratizes that artistic expression, but the democratization part which are talking about cannot justify that exploitation. Our side also explain that the artists spend years for building their reputation, styles, and identities. AI systems can appropriate these characteristics and reproduce them at a scale often without meaningful consent. The question is lies here that who is benefited, and how that is copied, or the individuals or corporations using AI to profit that identity. The opposition never provided a convincing mechanism to protect creators from this imbalance. As a result, their vision empowers technology more than it empowers artists. And however, that the AI engineering largely depends on the existing artistic works and styles we are talking about. It does not emerge from any lived experience or the imagination thing, or doesn't create meaningful anything. Rather, it's just reproducing the patterns which are derived from the past human creators. So when we are not just argue about the to how to improve or how to create a new thing, so where we are here to being sit to debate. So here is the main importance of art and artist lies. So opposition just calls that the imitation is the mere creativity, but we as a gov side, we are just renouncing it like a sophisticated replication. There is a fundamental difference between being inspired by an artist and digitally reproducing that art's voice, style, or identity. If the society increasingly rewards replication, genuine innovation becomes less valuable. Therefore, our side better protects the long-term health of the creativity. And oh, I would like to entertain the POI. Hello, I would like to entertain the POI.
There there are no POIs in the reply speech. I think your
Okay, okay.
time's over. Yes.
Uh, okay.
Thank you so much, Gavrapra, for your fine speech. With this, we come to an end of this debate. Now we'll take 10 minutes to just deliberate on our decisions and fill the ballots, and with it, we'll be right here by in the next 10 minutes for the OAs. Thank you so much for a good round. If I can ask the panelist, the other panelists to join me in the deliberation room. Please, Devyanshu, please
Uh,
join in over there.
yeah, sure. Where is the deliberation room though?
Is in this meet only. In room 29, there's this other call of deliberation apart from debate, government opposition. Just check.
It's not visible, I think. It's not visible to me.
Acha, all right, makes sense. It might be just visible to me. Okay, cool then. Just ping me personally, okay? You drop me a text personally right now. Hope both these sides are over here. Gov, are you here in your entirety?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Opposition, are you here in your entirety? Opposition, are you guys here?
Oh, yes, we are here in our entirety. Yes,
Okay,
I
okay. Thank you
think.
so much. I'm just here to announce the house call of the debate, after which the trainee will give the OA, followed by me, according to the order specified by the panel. So can I again get a confirmation? Is government here in its entirety?
Yes.
Is opposition here in its entirety?
Um, Wait, sorry. Oh, wait. Two of us are here. My speaker isn't here.
Can you just call them? I can wait for 2 moments. Just ask them to join.
Yes. Opposition is here in its entirety.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, with this, I'll announce the house call. The house call is that the motion falls. I repeat, the house call is that the motion falls. Op takes the debate on a unan call. All right, so with this, I would like to invite the trainee to give their OA whenever they're ready, and I'll exit this meeting. Thank you so much.
Wait, sorry. Please repeat the call.
The call is that the motion falls. Opposition takes the debate. Am I
Yeah,
clear?
sure. I'll just take 2 minutes.
Sure, fair. I'll leave them the call. Divyanshu, just drop me a text when you're done, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, am I audible? Hello.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So hello people. My name is Divyanshu, and I was the trainee for this round. So so yeah, the structure of my speech or the structure of my OA is simple. Like first the verdict, then MOV, then general comments, then clash by clash analysis that I have founded in this whole entire debate. So the verdict is that op takes the debate. The margin of the victory where ops takes the debate is, I think, is like close. Like it's close. On the general comment, I think it's average, pretty average debate. Now let's come over to the clash by clash analysis. I think the first class, the title of it is like originality versus progressive art. What Gov have to put on the table is like if the art is being sabotaged by AI, and like if like AI is and like now humans have like certain technology which can reproduce art, which can continuously like go ahead and like make new form of art through the statistics or like through the patterns that it has observed in the whole history. And their main argumentation totally relies on originality and like human creativity. What ops comes ahead and like give the counter prop here is the progressive art. What op tells me, like if the gov comes here and tells that like probably the credibility of the artist is like loosened, or like originality of the human creativity to probably inspires the future generation is like stumbled with with their fundamentals and all that. Probably op comes here with the idea of progressive art. What do they actually mean from it? Is like whenever the art is produced by the artist, they go ahead and like through the help of AI, they're able to progress it, like uh, from the better interpretation, probably from the better like reimagination of this particular art, which continues to inspire and like particularly continues to make new meanings throughout it, and like continues to serve the particular contemporary world. So in the debate mostly, like the example of Mona Lisa and all that was going on. Let's understand from that. Like suppose like at certain situation in back in time where Mona Lisa was produced by the original artist, probably the meaning or like the particular thing that the artist wanted to derive from that particular painting was different from the today's world. But if we see the perspective of progressive art, what does that simply says to us is like probably change it a little bit, probably the background, probably something in it that will say or like that will represent what is the current world looks like, or like that will continues to inspire. First subclass that I see is credibility. Credibility is for sure, but one thing that stays in the fiat of the op is like uh, if Winky has ever produced like you know Mona Lisa, it is not going to be like demolished in any sort of way. It can be reimagined, it can be like progress in itself, but the credibility of that particular artist will always stay. The subclass second in this particular debate is like originality that governments gives me, and this particular subclass is given to the government. Like if imagine the world where there is no AI, and like human creativity comes in the first place, second generation comes and like it gets inspired from it, and like continues to inspire, and like the progression happens in itself. And then it comes the like time of AI and all that. Then it hampers that particular progression. But with that, like what gov tries to prove here, and they come up with a like better mechanization of it, like that if this happens, like probably the future generation, like or the upcoming generation would have like like lesser incentive to go ahead and like produce like their own original content and all that. But even to imagine this in this particular scenario, have their like particular case, how does they take this, like again with like large scale reproduction and all that. But uh, let's come to the second clash, that is human creativity and like large scale production. That is almost similar to the previous clash only, because this whole debate was like particularly on these clashes, which were like continuously parallel. More could have been brought from the another table. What I receive is like more mechanization over the previous case, like no, like a lot of new content and all that, but that's okay. So large scale production, reproduction of the art is again like what this op argue is, like particularly that um in their case audience is the priority. If the audience is a priority, they are able to like have like better catering towards the audience. And in the gov case, they are totally arguing that like if we democratize this whole technology, then probably it will hamper the uh, like existence of the artist. Like it will clearly kill it, or like probably clearly like down throw it. But still, why does and I think this is one of the major um like weighing that uh clashes have in this. Like if this particular case, if government was able to prove me like how the human creativity is still uh could go ahead and like mix with the AI or something, and still go ahead and like sustain their credibility or like creativity, they could have like come ahead like some point closer to the opposition. What opposition still gives me, like probably human creative will still go on, because now not only artists are there, instead AI plus all the people are there to reimagine and like regenerate or like re-engineer it. All people come and like more inspiration happens simultaneously. um I think that's it for my OA. Any questions? Preferably from Go. Any questions? Okay, that's a no. Up. Okay.
All right. I hope I'm audible. Hello, everyone. Can I get a confirmation
Yes,
if
you
I'm
are.
audible? All right. Just give me a minute. I'll start with my OA in 2 minutes.
Before that, could you guys please fill the ballots?
Yeah, guys, fill the ballot for the training before I start my OA. Which means give the OA feedback. You can access it through your private URLs by using the option feedback for round one. All right. Just one member from each team.
Also, Atish, please confirm. Like, I'm ready with the speakers course. Like, do they take trainee speakers? Like, do they
I
allow to check
believe
the ballots?
I believe you can check it in your private URL over there. In your private URL, if there is an option to submit the ballots, then submit it. Cool.
I think it's always there, but like the chair has to submit it.
Yeah, I'll be submitting mine. Just confirm it with the OC then. All right. I
Okay,
believe I have to submit. I'm the solo chair,
sure,
so
sure,
yeah.
sure, sure, sure.
Yeah. So confirm with the cap rather than the OC cap के साथ confirm.
Okay, okay.
Also, teams, government's veto was motion 2 and opposition's veto was motion 1, right? Can I get a confirmation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, hello everyone. I'm Atish. I was today's chair for today's debate. Okay. I hope I'm loud and clear. Am I audible? Just please confirm with me.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, thank you so much. Are both the teams present? Government in your entirety?
Yeah.
Opposition are there in your entirety? Opposition? All right.
Yes, we are present.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm really sorry for confirming, but yeah, confirming again and again. All right, so I'll start with my OA at the self countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. As you guys know, the House call is that the motion does not stand, or side opposition takes this debate. The way I'm going to structure my OA is first I'll tell you the framing which I accepted and which I bought from both these sides, and the metrics by which I judge this ground, followed by some general comments that apply to both the teams broadly in this debate, and then I'll walk you down through the individual clashes within which I'll talk about the margins and why the verdict looks like the way it does. And please understand that I might not be able to cover all lines of analysis that went out throughout this debate in my OA. So if you have any further questions, you can ask me when the OA gets over. On the framing, the info slide is very specific and important in this scenario where the info slide tells us that art reengineering via AI is not just some generation from scratch, that is, you create some sort of a new AI, form of art. Rather, it is reimagining the sort of existing work that is present in society. And when I talk of art, art is not just related to paintings and music, it is related to form of art, theater, and such, which is a major perspective that you need to debate from when you debate art types of themes of art, basically. So when this sort of understanding is implanted, this means that the debate is not now about whether this AI is good or bad in the abstract. Rather, it is more about whether this sort of popularization of this sort of practice or this sort of usage is at this sort of a big scale is something we should welcome or resist. That is what the debate was about. And this side of population is something that both the sides critically underuse in this sort of a debate. So which is something I would have needed from more from your end, so that I can understand what does this world with popularization and without popularization looks like at all points of time and all scenarios, so that I will be able to better analyze, because this is a THO motion. That means it is not a retrospective debate. Rather than all the harms that is associated with this sort of popularization is something you talk about while standing in the present as to why you have to oppose this for the future, if I'm clear. With this, the general comments being first on the definition of art and who it belongs to, because it was a major contention in the debate. Both the teams spent time debating what art is, but neither of the teams solves the major foundational question that is very important to this debate, is that does art primarily belong to the artist who creates it or to the audience that receives and gives it meaning? Government implicitly argues the former and opposition talks about the latter. That means it runs a kind of a parallel debate for me, where government talks about the case about the artist's harm, and opposition tells me about the success of how do you access the audience and the people who are consuming this sort of art in the first place. So this is something that runs a parallel debate, and where I as an edge have to come in and weigh down the whole metrics without any classified matter that I get from both the teams. Second, on the comparative scale, both teams made arguments that would be strong if developed into what does this population actually looks like at all points of time in the all the sects of the society. That is, government comes and tells me about how this sort of economic harm to artists happens and this devaluation of culture in the first place, which I completely get as a really good push. And opposition talks about accessibility and cultural revival. But the problem is both the teams do not build on the world that they're defending. That is, what does this sort of AI in art engineering, re-engineering gonna look like at the test of time across 20-year scale? At basically, the meta debate of the whole thing. This is something that I would have appreciated in the debate, which would have given me more clarity. So yes. Coming to the metrics, my metrics for this debate were clearly like reasonably straightforward. Like first, what does a world where AI art reengineering becomes popular actually look like? That is, for the all the stakeholders that this motion implies and that has been implicitly agreed upon by both the sides, where the people are better off. Second, assuming both the harms and benefits coexist on both sides of the debate, where does the net balance sit? That is, which side comes and tells me and proves to me that their world produces a greater and likely benefits for a larger number of people, that is the net utility of the people. The agreed upon framing over here then be that that both the sides agree that this sort of AI art reengineering operates at a very good scale and a speed and cost efficiency. That means people are able to access this sort of AI at all points of time and recreate art. And this is the sort of thing that happens. And that means that this sort of art is propagated through like internet media and is heavily accelerated by its popularization as such. When both this sort of framings is agreed, this is where the clash analysis comes in as to why the result of the debate turned out to be the way it is. So both sides also implicitly framed somewhat that the audience or the consumer is some of the ultimate arbitrator of the value of the art that the artist produces. So which is where the government first comes and tells me on the economic harm and destruction of the artists incentives. Like this is the first clash that came up in the debate. Government tells me that popularization redirects the revenue away from this original creators of arts in the first place and makes human produced art more commercially unviable, and this is something that is not good for the society as a whole and destroys the ideals and instincts due to which this sort of artistic innovation happens in the status quo in the first place, and the reason why people go ahead and make this sort of form of art. Especially the people this sort of thing affects the most are the economically marginal artists. This is where I follow the logic of the government, and this is a very concrete argument. But what I should have gotten more from the government over here is that why this harm is exclusive to this sort of a popularized world only and not only present in the current status quo. That is, if in case of the not presence of this population, how does this sort of harm does not implicate other people? Which is where the opposition comes and tells me that, okay, this sort of popularization of art in the first place generates its own infrastructure of accountability. That is, when AI reengineering becomes mainstream, that means people now know that this sort of AI is being created, so people are more aware about it. That means this becomes a little bit of more mainstream because again, the propagation media that both the sides agreed upon is some online to people go ahead and see pictures of it, interact with reels and such and such. When this sort of thing happens, that means regulation of this sort of AI is something that exists in the status quo as well and is going to exist on both sides of the world. When this sort of thing happens, the audience is also aware that original artists are present and they are scaling along with this sort of rise of this sort of AI generated content, which means that opposition stance over here is something that mitigates the major problem that the government comes and tells me as to why this sort of exclusivity of their harm is something that is not present just to only on opposition side but is also present on government side, but the opposition is somehow mitigating it with some sort of a regulatory system or some sort of a thing that does not fully resolve the harm, but government's failure to close it and engage with it more is something that caused them this clash. Coming to the major clash that later on went on is about the originality and the cultural devaluation of the art produced. DPM especially comes and tells me that like the AI re-engineering, homogenizes the artistic output. That is, the regularization of the kind of art produced. It becomes more similar. You kind of see similar kinds of art being produced on the internet, and it produces a culture of consumption where people just go ahead and opt into just enjoying this form of art rather than choosing authentic expression, because now people are more incentivized to create art that caters to the consumers rather than creating a sort of art that is expressive and expresses things. I understand the intuition. But you do not tell me that why does this sort of popularization produces this sort of homogenization rather than this sort of diversification which now opposition comes and engages with. Opposition response to this was social media art trends are constantly shifting. That is, every day a new trend comes in place. Today it was Ghibli, tomorrow it might be sandpaper art, tomorrow it might be something else. That means this sort of thing, when it's constantly shifting, the heterogeneity on their side is a feature of this sort of this digital art culture, which means that the stagnancy that the government is coming and telling me is going to happen is somewhat unlikely to happen. That means new art emerges every day in response to the audience demand, the kind of thing audience wants to cater to, and it's more consistent with how the popularization actually behaves in this sort of an ecosystem. When I get this from the opposition side, government does not, I don't get a lot of interaction from the government's case, rather than they just come and tell us about how the harms are there, but how that exclusivity on their side. But here also government comes and tells me this sort of regularization also leads people to not produce authentic stuff that leaves society culturally poorer. Here, what the op comes and tells me is rather an interesting argument. They comes and tell us that how the art carries meaning based on how the artist defines it and how the audience perceives it. That means the presence of this sort of copyright limitations, protection mechanisms, and such, like this natural rise of AI detecting machines, can limit the actions of people, can limit them from creating this sort of fake AI or fake generated stuff, or somewhat protect the original creators up to a certain extent. With which I can credit this to the opposition, and these are the major clashes which all the opposition took. And a minor clash that happened, which the government side took actually, was about the consent problem, where government raised this certain inherent question as to who gives this sort of AI people like AI reengineering companies to go ahead and get this data in order to train these sort of models to create this sort of AI. And the consent is something that matters to this artists more, because again they are the ones who are producing art. Opposition does not engage with this topic at all, which is why I credit it to the proposition. And with this, the opposition takes the debate and the motion falls. The OA is over. I would take questions starting with the proposition side, the government. If you have any doubts, please.
Yeah, can I get a personal feedback?
Oh yeah, sure. You can reach out to me on DMs. You can just drop in a text on Discord over here. I'll be very glad to reply.
Okay.
I
Sure, go ahead. Any more questions from government side? Just a minute. Okay, seeing none. Opposition, yeah. Kutwano.
Okay, yeah, I'm just missing something. I understand that there were clashes that the panel decided to prioritize, or rather use to derive the call itself. But what I'm not hearing is more on, I guess, the response that we had to, or rather, let me put it like this: the premise that we had that talks about the removal of the barrier to accessing art. We think then from our side we're able to explain how we essentially weaponize AI because this is the most proximate tool to us. This is something that is most, I guess, accessible to us. This is why we think it's more justified to utilize it then as means. Even outside of that, we're saying that mechanisms don't matter, but what matters is whether or not can we be able to achieve the outcome. The second thing that I think I'm missing from your OA, it's more or less on the idea of necessity, like more on the idea of necessity in terms of why do we think it becomes more necessary for us then to be able to utilize this form of re-engineering, which is through AI, right, to essentially like achieve all the outcomes that we say to achieve. And this is something that is largely unresponded to from the proposition. So just please just tell me, how does your matrix in then deciding the debate engage that in and of itself?
All right, understood. Okay, I'll tell you two ways the OA works. Works according to me. Like what I believe is that when I give an OA, I try to explain to the side which did not take the debate as to why, what were the reasons and why the how the material was dealt with by the opposition side. That's the reason I said in my OA, like OA in the first line itself, that I might miss some lines of analysis. This is a line of analysis which I credited to you, but as it remained unengaged and because of the time constraint, I was unable to cover it in my way. I'm really sorry, but yeah, the material was credited. Especially, it was a really good analysis that you ran about that how this sort of cultural disappropriation of art exists throughout the society at all points of time, and art is inaccessible to major parts of the society, and due to this, you will be democratizing AI up to a certain extent. It is something that I understood and I credited it. This is where the necessity of this sort of usage of technology comes in. But as it was again remained unengaged from the side of proposition, I believed on the merits of priority. I should be prioritizing more on the things that you guys engaged upon more rather than something that was not engaged upon. Hence, that doesn't mean that it discredits the value of the argument which you posed to me. I hope that's fair. Yeah, thank you so much. Because again, it always have to be explanatory rather than something that credits that where I talk about as to how I credited each and every argument. So yes, I hope with that being clear, teams, can you please fill the OA feedback or the ballots basically, and after that you can
Wait,
leave the room.
oh, I was gonna ask if you could give me feedback on like my first speech.
Sure, sure. Okay, feedbacks I cannot do right now, but I'll be
Oh,
giving the feedbacks post the debate. Just ping me personally on DMs on Discord, or else I'll drop my Instagram. You can text me on that as well if you guys use Instagram. So yeah,
I can't
both the
DM
sites,
you
please fill.
without you accepting my friend request.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll accept.
Acha, okay. Okay, can you please tell me how do I like submit the ballot? Uh, Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so how do I submit the ballot?
Okay, in your private URL, there's an option to click on submit feedback. When you click on that, select the adjudicator's name. You can select my name and then give a score on the scale of 1 to 10 and the reasons for your score and submit it. I hope that's clear.
Okay.
Yes. Leave in the feedback progress. I can't see that you guys have left it. So yeah. Okay, thank you so much for a lovely debate. I'll be taking my leave. All the best for the further rounds, guys.
Thank you.
thank you. Wait, is this the last round for the day?
No, no, there's another round. There's round two happening. Today we have two rounds. So yes.